Alright guys, in today's video I'm going to be showing you guys how to identify trimmed cards. Trimmed cards are a big problem for vintage cards out here, especially if you're buying raw at a card show. They often slip past dealers' hands. They don't even realize a card's trimmed, and then you get a card that's trimmed, you send it to PSA, and it comes back as authentic. So I'm going to be showing you guys today how to identify trimmed cards, and it's easier said than done. Some of the trimmed cards are very, very good, but let's take a look at them right now. So I'm going to give you guys two examples of trim cards today. So I'm going to show you right here that it can affect any type of card. People even trim something that was $5 last year, which is crazy to me. So the first card right here is this 1940 Mel Ott. Again, looks pretty good, close to the naked eye. Another one right here is this Yager O-Pee-Chee Premier. Again, looks pretty good card. This was like a $5 card last year, so it's now been trimmed. But let me go over why both of these are that. First, though, why people trim. So obviously, getting a trim card increases the value perception, assuming obviously that no one knows that the card is trimmed. Someone's going to trim a card because they want to have a better centering on a card. Having better centering obviously will get more of a money at a show when it's raw. You're going to be able to fix some of the edges of a card, and you can also fix corners. So if there's a bad corner, snip, snip, and that corner now looks pretty good. So I'm going to show you guys 5 different ways that you can identify a trimmed card. Some are easier than others, and it just takes a lot of time. And again, it's not perfect. Some cards are going to slip by, but do your best. And the grading companies have a lot more tools than I do have available, and you can't bring everything to a card show. You can't bring thousands of dollars equipment. So do your best, and if you're ever going to go out there and buy a really, really expensive card, just do your research on that card before. I also have a series on this channel about spotting fakes, so check out that series on that card so you know if it's fake or not, and then apply some of these concepts for trimming. So the first example is going to actually have a real example of a card. So this Mel Ott might look really good to you, right? Until you realize that the actual 1940 play ball has another border around it. So compare these two cards now. You can see that this one right here is cut around this first black border right there, and all this outside edges have been cut off around the card. So by knowing that the play balls have an extra black border around it, you can tell right away that this Mel Ott is not a genuine copy. Someone has altered it to work on the appearance of this card. And the second way is to actually compare it to a real size card. So again, since I have the other 40 play ball right here, can do that. So take this out. I'm going to line this over the edge. You can tell a lot of it has been cut off. And I'll show you the same with the Yager card as well. So I have the Modano rookie from that set. Beautiful looking card. It's a 9 for the Modano. And you'll see also with this Yager, it's a really close example for this, by the way. And when you line it up, you can see that there's a little bit on the top, which I'll show you examples why on the top right over here it is altered. But yeah, right there, it does not line up. And it's a shame because this Yager card was like a $5 card, and it looked pretty sharp, but cannot get this graded anymore because no one wants an authentic Yager rookie. And the next example on how you can actually tell if a card is altered or not is to look under a loop. So I use this loop right here. It's like $10 on Amazon. Really handy. I mean, super small, so you can put it in any bag you bring it to show. And I really recommend this. If you've seen my Spotting Fake series, Michael Jordan. But let's take a look at the fake version that I got sent and why this is fake. So at first glance, right, you can see that this, I go under and show you guys what to look for under a loop. But it also helps with alterations. So when I take this Mel Ott out, I'll show you. Now, it's going to be tough to show you what a loop looks like under video, but I'm going to do my best, guys. All right, so the best way is to look at an edge of a real card versus the edge of the altered card. Sometimes when someone alters a card, they might only alter one edge on a card, so you might have 3 edges that are still good. So take a look at the real edges and then take a look at the altered one. You'll see a difference on how it is cut. But look under loop right here. Let's see if this works or not. Works a little bit. You can see how it's cut down here. I know it's distorted a little bit on here. But the play balls weren't cut like that. I'm going to try to, again, doing it with the Carl Hubble. Again, it's really tough to see on this stuff. I don't know how well it's picking up for the viewers. But you can see it's a clean cut. The Mel Ott, on the other hand, is a very rough cut. And you can also see the old black border around it. So just compare a real example that has not been altered on the sides. Or you can look at one of the sides that has not been cut. This Mel Ott has all four sides cut, so that would not work on that card. But something like the Yager right here, for example, only the top is cut and the other sides are good. So this would be a perfect example to look under and tell that this has been altered with that. The next one is to take a look at some of these edges. So as I talked about, looking at under the edges right here, you can see some of the different cuts that people have. So one of the most common one is either cutting down on the corners or cutting up. So I know it's gonna be kind of tough to tell, but these corners over here are slightly above this edge right there. So that's one of the things that people can tell when you're cutting it. They cut down and the corners are above. Now there's also the opposite when the corners are below the edge. Make sure everything lines up straight, because if it does not line up straight, that means it does not work with that. So make sure it is there. Again, you look at the edges as well. If you see some jagged edges over here or just a really weird cut, just avoid the card, because chances are it's been altered in some way. Obviously, there's some factory flaws. Not all cards are going to be printed exactly the same, and that's what makes detecting alterations on older cards difficult, especially with things like the T206s. There's variations between all the different factories that these were printed at, and it just makes it really tough. So you have to really look at the card like that and figure out what happened to it. The last, I'm going to take a look at this O-Pee-Chee Premier Yager, and hopefully it shows up on video, is to take a look near the corners. And when you cut something, you notice how like a piece of paper will fold a little bit when you cut it. Well, the same thing happens with cards. And you can see slightly over here that there's that fold mark on the edge. It's very tiny. I don't think it's going to show up on the video. But just pretend like you're cutting a piece of paper and you know how the paper acts. Well, over here, there's some signs of it. So someone went over here and started over here and cut the card just like that. So they probably went over here and went like that. And I'm actually going to go over here and show you guys an example on like a penny card. So let me grab a penny card real quick. Let's say I am cutting this card right here, a Jonathan Stewart. So I'm going to take off this over here. See how it just happened right there? It's there. See how you can tell just a little bit? I know it's not picking up too well on camera, but just test it out for yourself on a cheap card, something that's like a 10-cent card, and you will see. Again, this was cut a lot differently than the factory, so you can tell that as well right here. And lastly, guys, never trim a card. We all talk about the famous Hannes Wagner T206, the one that's been owned like by Gretzky, the one that was the first grade by PSA, was trimmed. And it's bad for the hobby because collectors get burned. These get passed along multiple times because no one wants to take the loss on a card, especially if it looks really close. So don't trim cards. And if you find a card that has been altered, just keep it in your collection and don't let it go out to the public. Anyways, I hope this video helped. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'm going to catch you in the next one.